So thank you, Vivi and Danielle, for inviting us to speak at your event. I would like to introduce us and the Money Mentor Project. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Greta Gavin and I'm the head of Money and Housing Advice at King's College London. I'm joined by two of our money mentors, hopefully, Bethany Ward, who is a fourth year medical student at King's, and Salma Hussain, who's the president of KCL SU, and who was previously a money mentor. Beth will be doing most of the talking, but first I just wanted to give you a very brief intro into how the Money Mentor project came about. So, basically, we kind of recognised as advisors that there was somewhat of a gap in the information that we could provide to students, especially at open days from prospective students. We also found that when we went to open days and things like that, students really engaged with the student ambassadors that we saw around. They wanted to know what actually living as a student was like. Money quite often came up, and sometimes the information that we were given was not always that helpful, or maybe might have given students the wrong information that wasn't necessarily relevant to them. So we could see that there was a need and there was a demand, but perhaps it also needed to be boundaried in some kind of way, and that wasn't the fault of any students or ambassadors. They just didn't have that training. So we kind of sounded out, could this be something that we could do and that we could train those students, and we'd be responsible for them and they work as part of our team. So we wanted to make sure that we had some kind of student voice to this. We wanted to make sure that we were representing different parts of the student experience, and we wanted to be able to do things on campus where we had people, current students who were representing the service and were very visible and they were approachable, and they kind of removed the taboos around money and having conversations around it, that it was something okay to talk about and not just something that you had to show that you were able to do lots of things, that it was okay to actually live on a budget, to want to save money and to look for discounts and things like that. Okay, Beth, you can move on. So we wanted to give students the opportunity to share their experiences, their survival tips, not ours, which were at least 10 years old, and I'm being kind in saying 10 years old, and help others to make informed choices about how they spend money. We were seeing a lot of students who just, quite often that first term was really difficult around what do they prioritise, how do they get started, they look at this massive bill coming from accommodation, how do they manage that with all the startup costs and everything else. So you wanted to make that information relevant for when they start, but also when there's campaigns throughout the year, that's actually relevant to their experiences, and also to inform. We found that a lot of students just were not aware of things that they needed to be aware of. And over the last few years, that has become more obvious, especially around scams and things like that, where we worry that students have been very much targeted. For the students who are involved in the project, we wanted to be able to give them the opportunity to earn money. So from the outset, we've always found a budget to pay them. They were to act as a signpost for the service, but also broader services so that students knew where to get help. We had hoped that it would increase successful applications to university hardship funds. Unfortunately, I haven't found a savvy way around how we'd actually measure that, but also to aid student retention and enhance the student experience. Again, how do you measure that? So it's a bit tricky, but certainly from the point of view of students who engage with them and feel like they learn more, when you get that feedback there at the time, it's all very positive. Beth, I shall pass over to you, my dear, I believe.
Lovely.
Because to do this, we created the Money Mentors.
Yes, that's me. I was sort of a couple of years after it started, but I've been doing it for 3 years now. This is my 4th year as a money mentor. And I'm sure we'll hear from Salma as well. I think she did 3 years as well. So one of the first times that a student will come across us is actually before they start university. So we speak to them at like open days and things. So we'll be there, and normally the parents want to talk to the staff members, but the students tend to want to talk to us. We'll be there in our hoodies and t-shirts, and we're quite visible. We'll have lots of different bits and bobs on the tables to sort of draw people in, as well as flyers and leaflets and everything like that. We'll tend to be near student funding and Resi Life, just kind of relevant things like that, and we'll pass each other back and forth, and that's more of a funding thing, and they'll say, well, that's more of a money mentor situation. We'll be at Unibuddy events, and we also do, we work with comms to send out to prospective students things like Money Ready for Uni. We created a video series this year of workshops. We signpost to our social media, and we have stuff on the web as well that we try and get out to students before they even start at uni. And then another thing we do is we are at the widening participation events, sort of for prospective students, and we can then sort of talk to them about financial planning and run little sort of interactive sessions with them. So then the student actually arrives at university and will be at the Student Union welcome event and the main University Kings welcome event as well, because they are separate and you do get slightly different people going to different ones. Or they might see us at both and then they can just get 2 tins, and that's fine as well. We then had the opportunity to sort of like remind them that we are around and that there's money help at Kings. Then there are sort of advice staff there that can refer to us and vice versa. A really popular thing during Welcome Week and sort of the start of uni are our workshops. So last year, when it was all sort of in person, we had a really, really good attendance at those workshops. Things like budgeting, banking, funding, all these things, student living, things like that. We had me and Greta worked on the path to financial well-being, and we did lots of different things like that, and they turned out to be pretty popular, so that's nice. Then sort of twice a year, we do run our campaign weeks. They can be online and electronic, but in the past we have done them on campus, so we'll see what happens this year. But you can see an example of one of our tables here. Lots of freebies, lots of chocolate, lots of games to sort of draw them in. They normally coincide with Talk Money Week and with National Student Money Week, so November and February is when we tend to do them. So it's part of being there on campus, catching those people that might not have gone to workshops, might not be sort of proactive enough to go to a workshop, but might think, there's some chocolate there, I want that, and engage them that way. So they'll play our little game, and the conversation can then sort of flow quite organically into deeper talks about money and about how they're doing with their money. We found it to be quite good to have students at these. So we have staff members as well who are lovely. The advice team at King's are really, really friendly and lovely, but students don't necessarily know that. They might see them as sort of a scary adult that's going to tell them off and judge them for spending loads of money on lipstick, which they won't, but they might feel more comfortable telling us about that first, and then we can encourage them to go and speak to an advisor if they need to. And also we do have some knowledge that the advisors don't. The advice and guidance team know all about the technical stuff. They know all of that stuff that we might not know, but we have sort of on the ground, here and now knowledge about discounts and tips like that. So it can be quite good to have us as a sort of accompaniment there. Alongside the campaigns, we'll have social media campaigns and stuff on our websites as well. Okay, so this is a lovely example of one of the things we do at our campaign stores. This is our Hook a Duck. It was very popular. We tend to try and use these as a way to like myth bust and inform our students. So for example, on this one, you picked up a duck and the number on the bottom, you had to answer a corresponding question. If you won, if you got it right, you could choose the lucky dip, get some chocolate. Brilliant. So it was all sort of myth busting sort of misconceptions around money. There's lots of sort of prizes. We've found that chocolate works just fine, but as you can see, we've had fire sticks and mugs and all sorts of things as well. Similar day games we've done is taste tests, guess the value of the hamper, just sort of fun ways to get people involved. Do you want to win a prize? This is another campaign that we did around mental health and money. On the store, we had this money confession box. So if somebody wrote a money confession, they could have a bit of chocolate. Or I think we had the Blackbullion pigs as well, which were more popular. But you can see people were quite honest. They really did dig kind of deep for these, and it did give us an idea of what people were struggling with their money, and just makes us aware of that we can bring these things up with students. We sort of worked with counselling and mental health provision with the university to like spread the word with these sorts of campaigns. This was a really nice one. So this was about student housing and living in London, which is very expensive, I can tell you. And we had these lovely little whiteboards, and students could write where they lived and something they liked about where they lived. We also collected some data on how much they were spending on their rent in various different areas, just to get an idea of the general amount that people do spend. Which we did look to sort of a year or so after as well. So it was data that we could use. This was another popular little gimmick. So this was for our scams campaign week. So we've done quite a lot on scams in the last year or so with workshops, but this was a whole week dedicated to it. As you can see, in order to spin the wheel, they had to either follow us on Instagram or register with Blackbullion. So it's a really nice way to get them engaged online. And they had to answer a question, either a true or false, a friend or foe, real or fake, sort of scams and things like that. So that was a good one. Lots of prizes. As you can see, the pigs, again, very popular. So this is my little passion project as well at the minute. I'm currently one of the 2 leads for the social media. We've been using it to reach a wider audience. So people that might not necessarily be on campus to see our campaigns might be on social media. Their friend likes one of our posts, it comes up on their feed. It just kind of spreads the word a little bit more. We can hold polls on the Instagram stories. We can find out information from our students, get their tips, get their ideas. A nice thing for events is that you can make a Facebook event, share it on the medic page, on the bioscience page, history page, all that sort of thing. So it's a nice way to get your events a little bit more out there amongst the students. It's also been a really nice way to build up some relationships. So I feel like we've built up a relationship with Blackbullion on social media. We've also been talking with King's Careers, King's Resi Life. It's been a really nice way to share each other's content and share followers, because really it's the same population that we're targeting. We know it's been working because this time last year we had 100 followers on Instagram and we're now about 740. So we've really boosted this year, thanks to Kerry and Hannah, who handled it last year. And over lockdown and Welcome Week, we really boosted our engagement. Our Twitter is covered by the university, so we don't have so much of a control over that. And our Facebook has a lot of followers, but they're more historic and there's not so much engagement on Facebook, probably due to sort of the demographics that use those different things. Instagram seems to be where it's at with the students at the minute. Okay, so this is a little picture of our social media. This is our Instagram. As you can see, most of the pictures, they're not filled with information. It's like a really nice, quick way just to sort of say, oh, that looks interesting, I'll read the caption. And then the caption has the information in it. So yeah, we don't put too much overwhelming stuff on there. Greta, did you want to talk through the workshops?
I can do, yeah, not a problem. So a lot of the workshops that we did last year that Beth said was really well attended. We then put them online this year. Beth recorded most of them. Thank you. And we did kind of a series. So we made smaller videos, which were originally set out to be about 10 minutes. But of course, once I got hold of them and made them longer, which is what happens always. So we put those up on our media that we have with your website. We're linked to it. I can hear kind of a feedback. There we go. So I kind of pulled together what I thought worked on campus and what worked online, just comparing those two. So on campus, it can be tricky to get students to physically attend. The timings just don't suit everybody. And you also, people are a little bit nervous about attending in person, whereas online people could access it whenever they wanted to. We noticed that a lot of students were actually clicking on it and looking at them. There's definitely more engagement in that sense with numbers. But actually, when you go and delve into the data, they don't stick with the whole thing. They don't watch it to the end. So whereas if you were on campus, you were there, you've kind of dedicated your time to being there. You've also got the added benefit that you've got others around you and you can bounce off of each other and those ideas. Some of the feedback that we got last year for the talks that we did on campus, especially the ones related to scams, was that students felt that there was so much they didn't know that they didn't realise they didn't know. And so from that, they were then much more receptive to looking at other information, to following up, to telling their friends. And I think they actually also learnt stuff in the room from the other people that attended. You had that kind of affirmation of, I've received something like that, or I didn't know what that was, or I got confused by that and I ticked on it too, or I've never considered sharing my information in a coffee shop is going to actually open me up to a potential scammer. So we got a lot of really good discussion going. So I think the biggest problem that everyone attending this knows is getting students to workshops. Once they're there, it's brilliant. And it works really well, but you do need to have a good group. And the only time we've ever achieved that has been during Welcome Week. And students can book really easily, but like through our app. So we don't have something that works quite so well during the year, but we do try to run them as part of the campaigns as well. I think I've probably said everything I need to there. And then the live Q&As that we did this year to kind of replace having stalls. We normally have kind of tents up and stuff like that. Students can just kind of come along and ask any questions to all the support services. But with respect to kind of this year, obviously we couldn't do that. So we set up live Q&As, we advertised those through our marketing team that support the welcome events. Students came along. We had a lot more sign-ups than people that actually attended, but those that attended, it was a really, really good conversation. The conversation kept flowing. There was loads of questions coming in and out. They were all kind of feeding off each other. Started off a bit nervous at first. Nothing was kind of coming out. A few people put in the chat, I just wanted to see what other people would ask. And then once someone was kind of brave and got going, it worked. So we do think it's something we might do quite regularly to have that kind of presence. It's then being able to promote it in the same way as we were at Welcome, that people actually know about it. So that's something we're going to have to work on in the background. But certainly because the social media has taken off, this has really helped to be able to get those issues out there. So I don't think anything will ever replace from being on campus and able to grab people and have a conversation and get them to think about something they would normally think about. But definitely it's a happy medium in the current climate, I suppose. And it also means that Money Mentors don't have to stand outside in the cold in November. We'd have to supply them with lots of the hot chocolate to keep them happy.
We had woolly hats. We had woolly hats, hoodies, and Greta's hot chocolate.
Okay. Lynn, I am replying to your message. I was typing it when Beth referred back to me, so I will answer it fully soon. But Beth, I'll pass it on to you to explain what these are and to round up.
Yeah, lovely. So this is just a little rundown of our advice guides that we've got online, our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and our little website there. And that's kind of it. So we've got, yes. So I'll stop sharing and we can all see each other. So I think, is it time for questions if anybody wants to speak or put them on the chat?
Yeah, I normally do this. I just wondered, I know that Salma had been on there and kind of answered. I wondered if there was anything you just wanted to add, Salma, before we kind of went into any other questions?
That'd be good.
Money Mentors is great. That was it. But I've appreciated it a lot more in the training we've had when I started my role, when people start say things like, oh, stuff on the website isn't updated. I go, no, it is. It's like this. And I remember when I was campaigning, I had a interview and they were asking about mental health services, and I was like, yeah, it works like this, because Greta gave us such good training on exactly how we can signpost to services, and that really helped when we were also just going up to random students and say, please come. Would you say, because they ask you a question and then you know the answer? But yeah, Money Mentors is great. That's the essence of it.